Hey everyone, it's Chad. This is Maker's Bench. So I'm really excited to talk about this next project that I have coming up, and I've started a project and it's time to tell everybody about it and start to make some videos. So let's get started. I'm working on a Boba Fett helmet, and I'm really excited about it. This is one of the things I really wanted to do with this printer. First of all, I want to thank Bob over at I Like to Make Stuff. He inspired me to actually do the helmet. With his Shoretrooper helmet. I'm going to put a video link, or I'll put a link to the video that Bob did for his Shoretrooper helmet down below. It did inspire me. This is something that I've wanted to do, I mean, as far as making some sort of Star Wars helmet for a long time. And I started actually making a Boba Fett helmet 6-7 months ago. And one of the things that happened was I didn't continue going, and I'll show you why. What happened was I started with a Pepelkura helmet. So you take cardboard and you make there's templates online. There's a great website called The Dented Helmet. I'll put a link to that down below in the comments as well. But there's templates and stuff that people have on there. This template is by a user on the Dented Helmet called Rafael. I don't know how to pronounce it, but I'll put a link to his template and his instructions on here as well on how to make a Pepelkura helmet. So I didn't get to the dome on here, and the reason I didn't get to the dome was, part of it was when I put it together, I ended up with this big kind of a bubble-shaped gap right here, and I was going to come back to it, and then I didn't. I got busy with other stuff, and I ended up getting the printer, and so I thought, you know what, I can, instead of doing it out of paper, because with this you're still going to have to, put bondo on here and do a lot of sanding and all that kind of stuff, which you still have to do on the 3D print as well, but I've never done this before. This was my first attempt, so it wasn't horrible. It's not bad, but I just, once I got the 3D printer, I was like, you know what, I'm just going to make a model of it, because if I do something wrong or something doesn't turn out right, I'd be able to just print another model and start over if I have to. But anyway, I wanted to make a model, and part of the reason that I haven't talked about this project yet is because I didn't know if I was going to be successful making the model. And so creating a 3D model of that helmet, one of the things about Boba Fett is that helmet is not symmetrical. It is not something that you can just easily say, okay, there's a line down the middle and I can create my straight lines and shapes, because Boba Fett's helmet is bent and dinged, and it's not symmetrical, it's out of proportion, it's shaped different. And I wanted to, I am by no means am I trying to get an actual replica movie prop type of exact replica thing. I mean, I'd like to get it to be respectable and close, but it's not going to, by any stretch of the imagination, going to be perfect. This is something that I'm just doing for myself, and I'm going to try to have some. I'm having a lot of fun with it. So I'm not trying to make a perfect model. That's something that maybe down the road later on, if I've done this a few times, and we can get there. But right now, this is just simply trying to have some fun and see if I can even do it. So while I started doing the CAD models, there was a lot of, and I'm not going to go into show a bunch. I've got some videos that I'm going to show of some of the CAD work and some of the stuff, but there was a lot of trial and error. This was a very difficult piece to model. There's a lot of things. I tried to use a lot of the sculpting tools inside of Fusion, and I have no experience with the sculpting tools, so I'm really trying hard to just learn as I go here. So there was a lot of back and forth, and my model's pretty messy, I think. For my standards, my model is pretty messy, but and I'm already tempted to remodel it. But right now, I'm going to just go with what I have, and so I'm going to show you what I have and the process that I've made to get here. So when I first started, I tried to sculpt and use the pictures and the canvases inside of Fusion. So let's get into that a little bit. Okay, so inside of Fusion, there's a tool in here that you can use called canvases, and I put a bunch of canvases in, and what I did was I started with the dome, and I put in the dome supports from the templates that were made for the Pepelkura helmet, and I used those as a guide. And I put in the dome supports, and I put in the cross supports there, And so what I tried to do was I tried to create, and I did. I sculpted. I used the sculpting tools, and I was able to. Actually, I don't know if I used sculpting tools. I might have used. I think I used sculpting tools. Yeah, pretty sure I did. And I used the sculpting tools to make the dome, and that was where I started. Once the dome was done, I tried to get into. There was all of these were dome pieces. Actually, there's the 45s too, so you actually have dome pieces all the way across. So I got that sculpted. The dome wasn't. There was a lot of learning and trial and error with that too, but we got the dome put together. Next, I tried to get into, using some of the images. There was also from the templates as well. I tried to use the templates, and I tried to sculpt the shape onto the helmet of the piece, but that was also, it got to be really tough. And there was also these that's a left profile, right. So there's also the helmet profiles, but these are intended to be wrapped around, and so they're not exactly a good guide when you're trying to just go from an orthographic side and trying to sculpt. So this wasn't working for me, and so what I did was I used a tool called what is it called? Photogrammetry, and it's called Recap. And so I used Recap from Autodesk. I have a login for it's tied into my work account. So I don't know what the costs are, whatever. I know that Autodesk uses cloud credits to do these things, because what you do is you load up your pictures, and you can see over here I've got my pictures loaded up in here. You load up the pictures. So what I did was I took pictures of my Pepelkura helmet. I took a bunch of pictures. So I started at the front, and I just took pictures. I set it up on a tripod so it sat there, and I walked around, and I took pictures of my helmet, of this particular helmet. And once you put the pictures in, it loads everything up to the cloud, and then on the cloud it does this thing. So there's two versions. There's a low res, and then there's a high res, high detailed model you can make. And so what this does is takes those pictures, and it makes a 3D model out of your pictures. And so the low res were free, and then the high res cost like 5 cloud credits. And I didn't use any cloud credits. I just did the free version of it. So, but again, that's tied through my work account, so I don't know for sure if it would cost money if you didn't have that or not. But it is called, like I said, it's called Autodesk Recap. And so what happens then is you take those pictures, and it makes a model. So I'm going to open up the model, and it creates this it creates this image right here. And so you can see my helmet right down here in the middle. This is where I had it. You can actually see part of the tripod coming down, and it makes this model of my helmet. You can see part of the house there. Guitars are over there and couches and stuff, but this is the model. So then from this model, I exported this as an object file, I believe. I think I made it as an object file, and I took that object file and I brought it into Autodesk's Mesh Mixer. So this is Mesh Mixer, and what I did is I deleted all of the outside stuff, and I brought all this stuff in here, and I tried to just basically make this model. And so I've got this, and you can see this model wasn't perfect, even with the whatever that's called, photogrammetry, something or other. Let me see, I got that right here. Photogrammetry is what it's called. I don't know how to pronounce it, but there was a hole in the back of the helmet and all that kind of stuff. But I think that I didn't think that'd be too big of an issue, because I was just going to use this as I decided I was going to try to use this model to make surfaces inside of Fusion, and then stitch those surfaces together. So let's go take a look at Fusion. So in Fusion, back in Fusion, we scroll down here. I had to upload my Pepelkura Fett helmet into my project, and then once I had that in there, I was able to insert it into my project. And once it was inserted in my project, we can turn it on, and you can see that this is the object file it made, and there's my helmet. So it's pretty close, not too bad. It actually did a pretty good job, I think. I mean, obviously it's got a lot of rough edges and trying to figure out where exactly the lines go, but that was part of the fun of it. So what I did, and I'm going to try and run some videos here showing the process of making these sketches. I did record a little bit of me making these sketches and how I moved the points to get them to lay on the surfaces of this object. But what I did was, and I've got my timeline rolled way back here now, and so I would make a sketch. And so the first sketch I did was down here in the left mandible on this bottom surface here. I made a sketch, and then I moved the points so that they were laying on the lines of the model. So if you look at the lines of the model, all of that is right where that's supposed to be. And then I made a patch, just a patch, a surface patch with this sketch. And then I created yet another sketch, and I did another one. So you can see here, it starts at that point, it comes out here, and it rolls up that mandible, and then it comes down to the other side, and there's another line then that comes across. So it's a 3D sketch, it's not a 2D sketch. So what you do is you start out with a 2D sketch, and then you move points, and you drag those points to where you want them to make so that it's not all on one plane. And then once I did that again, I made another patch, and you can see that when I turn off the Pepelcura model, I'm left with surfaces. And so that's what I was doing. I did a couple more on the other side. I'm not going to, oops, I didn't mean to do that. And then I went through the whole helmet basically and did this. Let's see. I think, yeah. So there's another surface on the other side, and then I did another sketch for the other mandible up here, and then again another patch, and you can see that we've got that. I'm going to turn the PEP helmet off for a second, and from here you can see we went through and I made the other sketch for the faceplate, and of course made a patch for that. And so that's basically how I went through making those surfaces. And I'm going to whip through here, and you can see I made some more surfaces, and then there's gaps, and I had to fill in all these gaps. Wrong way. And let's see, I'm going to try to, alright. Fusion's going to take a second. And I made a patch on the top and a patch on the bottom. I filled all these areas in with more patches and everything else. So once these patches were done, I'm going to turn the sketches off. Once these patches were done, I basically had this helmet in basically the shape of, except for, you know, this back end is a little rounded. I wasn't very happy with that, but the back end is rounded and whatnot. So I also did something later on to smooth that out and flatten that out. But let's see. And then we went ahead and we stitched all this stuff together. And so now that once I stitched this stuff together, this created a body right here. So now that's one body. And once you have surfaces that enclose an entire, make a sealed volume, and you stitch them together, it creates a solid body. I'm going to turn on my analysis button. So you can see, let me show you, let me roll it, whoops, I turned the body off. Turn the analysis off. I'm going to roll back before the stitch, when these were still surfaces, and when I turn the analysis on, you can see that this is hollow. This is just surfaces. And so once I turn the analysis off and I roll back and it's stitched, now you can see it's a solid object. And so I've got my solid helmet. Basically, well, I still had to do a combine. I've got my dome down here too. So, oh, that's what the other body is up here. This body is the, I haven't, and now what I did was at one more, I then combined those two into one object. So now we have the whole helmet. So there's the whole helmet put together. It's all one solid body now. And so from there, I did some other stuff there. Like I said, there's a lot of stuff I had to do, so I'm not going to get into all of it, but I did go through all of that, and I'm just going to move the marker down to the, back down to the end. If I can do that here. Let's just go down to the, oops, we'll go down to the end. And we're going to roll the history marker here. Alright, and now I've got the helmet as a component. So there's the component of the helmet. I also made a visor, so I did the same thing. I made a sketch, and I offsetted some planes, and I made a volume to take out the visor. I also did the arrows up here on the helmet, and so that I had those shapes. And then what I did was, long story short, I took the surfaces from the solid model of the helmet, and I offset those planes inside the helmet 4 millimeters to create the thickness of the helmet. And so I tried to do a shell command, and the shell just wouldn't work. And what a shell does is it takes a solid and it basically hollows it out, and you tell it what surface you want to be removed. That would have been the easy way to do this. It didn't work that way. So I offset all those surfaces, and I made another solid model of the helmet 4 millimeters smaller than the rest of the helmet. And what I did then was I created this helmet, and I brought that 4 millimeter, I brought both of those helmets in here, and I did a combine, and I pulled out that area inside the helmet. So you can see that we've got this area pulled out inside the helmet. So this is my helmet that I'm working with, and you can see that when I told you that back was rounded a little bit. I made some sketches, and I did a loft around and cut it off so that it was more of a straight, flat type of back. It's not perfectly up and down and smooth, and you can see that there's some areas where, because that back surface wasn't exactly flat, it cut most of it, but it left a little bit. And if you roll down, you can see that it really doesn't change much. There's some lines there just to show that those surfaces are different. But when I go and bondo this, when I'm all done, and I can fill in some of these areas back here and whatnot if I have to. They might even just print out smooth, so you might not even see those lines on the print. But that's kind of what happened there. So what I did then on the back was I cut a hole out in the back of the helmet for the vent, and this is one area that my helmet isn't too great. I don't know if I mentioned that already or not, but this should be down a little bit more. This should be a little bit smoother across the back end, but I'm going to leave it like it is for now and just see what happens. So, but then I started doing combines, and I pulled out here's the visor, and I did a combine and did a subtract, or a cut, so that it cut out that visor shape. And I did the same thing for the arrows on another combine right here. So then the little arrow shapes up in the top of the helmet are there. And then I started working on the vent on the back. And I drew the vent separately, and I modeled the vent separately, and I brought it in here. And I'm having some problems now doing a combine to get this vent to attach to this solid body, but I might have to model it inside of here. I don't know yet. But anyway, we're getting close. There's still some work to do on the sides here, on the side vents. There's a little bit of work to do on where the rangefinder is going to go, and the little side pieces that go on here. But once I get that done, then we should be able to get started with some printing. But I'm far enough along where I feel that I'm going to be at least successful enough to try a print, and so I wanted to talk about this project a little bit, and go through what I've been working on and how I've been doing that. Like I said, I'm very, very excited about this project. We're going to have more videos. We're going to, once I get the rest of this modeled up, we'll show the model. I'm going to have to split it into pieces. I'm going to figure out where to split it and how we're going to print those pieces. I'll make a video on that too, and I'm gonna make several videos along the way for this project. But I'm very excited about it. I think this is going to be a really fun project to do, and I've been having a lot of fun with it so far. Again, it won't be perfect, but I'm excited. So I think it's going to be really cool, and I can't wait to keep going and do some more on it. So I'm gonna do a little more work on it today, and I have to go back to the office. I work at home usually. Well, I work at home every day. So one of the things that I do is once a quarter I go back to the office in Illinois, and I spend a week there. So I'm going to be back at the office next week. So there might not be a ton of content next week. Maybe there will be if I decide to do a video from the hotel room. I do have to do a drawing for the 100 subscriber giveaway, so I'm going to probably be doing that from the hotel, because I will be, the contest ends Sunday, and I'll be driving to Champaign on Monday. So anyway, we'll see what we can get to put out next week. But this is where I'm at with this project. This is one of the things I've been doing. That's why you haven't seen a ton of content lately, is because I've been trying to get this model going, and I've got a lot of hours into that model so far. So again, look for those links below. Bob over at I Like to Make Stuff, dude's fantastic. I love him. I think he's great, and I really, his video on that Shoretrooper helmet really inspired me to break this project back out again and get back on this, because this is something I really, really want to do. And I'll also put the link to the Dented Helmet website, and I'll put a link to Rafael's templates. So if anybody wants to give that a shot or look at that stuff, I'll have that stuff up there. So thanks for watching. Again, any comments, if you want to say anything or talk about anything, or if there's any questions about what I've done so far, put those in the comments below. And if you haven't subscribed already, please go ahead and do that. And that's it. I think that's it for now. Take care, and we'll see you next time.